if you hear me!
In today's video, we're going to be discussing the 2002 return of Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner has had a career that spanned across decades, and was an All-American amateur wrestler before that. He spent some time in the WWE in the early 90s as one half of the Steiner brothers with his brother Rick Steiner. They eventually departed back to WCW, where Scott was able to reinvent himself like not many can. He cut off his mullet, dyed his hair bleach blonde along with his goatee, he betrayed his brother Rick, and became Big Papa Pump. This version of Scott Steiner was not as impressive in the ring as the All-American Scott Steiner, because he had put on way more size, and this limited his mobility in the ring. But where he really did shine was on the mic. In WCW, he pretty much had free reign on the mic, and he would cut some of the best promos you would ever hear, years before we were ever given Steiner math. He was also a WCW World Heavyweight Champion and was incredibly over in the WCW. So when word got out in 2002 that he would be returning to the WWE, fan anticipation was very high. Sadly, all the fans were let down, and his WWE run is believed to be the worst of his career. So what happened? Was he victim of Triple H's reign of terror? Scott Steiner made his official return at Survivor Series in 2002. He interfered in a match between Matt Hardy and Christopher Nowinski. The fans went nuts, and from that pop were very excited to see Scott Steiner. He made quick work of Hardy and Nowinski before grabbing a mic and giving his signature "Holler if you hear me" tagline. Now, after Big Papa Pump made his debut, his build-up would be a little lackluster, because at the time he was injured and was recovering. He would make house shows and appearances periodically, showing up to beat up heels and establish himself as a face. The main storyline for his TV appearances was a feud between Stephanie McMahon and Eric Bischoff on who would sign Steiner to their exclusive brand. This was a way of getting him on TV without wrestling due to his injury. I see why they did it, but to be honest, it feels like it dragged out way longer than it needed to. This ended up with Stephanie offering Scott some special time with her if he signed the deal with SmackDown, and Scott said that she was a tease and did not keep her word. Scott says she has to make good on her promises right there and then. Stephanie says she is a first-class woman and won't be doing anything. So Freakzilla says he won't be signing with SmackDown and leaves with Eric Bischoff. On the next Raw, Chief Morley and Ric Flair are telling Steiner that he better not interfere with Triple H's celebration segment for winning back the World Heavyweight Championship against Shawn Michaels at Armageddon. Sure enough, Big Papa Pump shows up and tells Triple H that in his contract he is guaranteed a title shot. After a little bit of trash talking, Triple H tells him that he was a big fish in a small pond in WCW, and now he's in the ocean, and Triple H is going to eat him up. The build-up to this feud was also poorly executed due to Steiner not being 100%. The build-up consisted of weekly challenges for the two competitors. I get that Steiner was injured, but this build-up was not exciting at all in my opinion. There were some entertaining parts. I remember as a kid I really enjoyed it, but I was a huge Steiner mark. But watching this as an adult, I feel that these don't really help move the storyline forward any. The first challenge is an arm wrestling contest that Steiner wins. The second contest is a pose down that Triple H wins with the help of some bought-off judges. Big Papa Pump isn't too happy about this and gives the business to Triple H's judges. The third competition is a bench pressing contest that Eric Bischoff wants to happen because he doesn't want Scott to lay a hand on Triple H. Freakzilla tells Bischoff that he and the fans are tired of these games. Oh, how right he was. The bench press competition starts with Steiner saying he will outlift Triple H by benching 585. Triple H's music hits and he comes out in a suit, which pretty much tells you that he's not going to be taking part in a bench pressing contest. He looks at Steiner and walks right past him into the ring. He cuts a promo saying that other stars have tried to beat him and take his title, but he beat them all, and that the Royal Rumble will be no different. Steiner goes to the ring and says these people didn't come here to watch them play games. They came here to see Scott Steiner whoop them up, and the two finally go after each other in the ring. Steiner strips him down to his undies and embarrasses him in front of everyone right before the Royal Rumble. Now, this match at Royal Rumble has been called one of the worst matches of Steiner and Triple H's careers, the other being the No Way Out match. And after watching this again, I can see why. The match starts with the crowd fully behind Scott Steiner as he makes his way to the ring. The match starts with an exchange of right hands and some knife-edge chops in the corner. Less than 5 minutes into the match, Steiner looks visibly tired already, and he gets one of many belly-to-belly suplexes. I know there are a lot of complaints about the amount of belly-to-belly suplexes in this match, and Scott gets a lot of heat for this. Also, there are some fans that say Triple H was sandbagging this match and was intentionally making Steiner look bad. Now, in the Wrestling Bios video about this match, he says that he doesn't see Triple H visibly sandbagging, and I agree. But there is one spot where I will place some blame on this match, and that's to whoever is calling spots. Now, I know some of you know this, and some might not. In a wrestling match, the heel usually calls the spots, unless you are in the ring with a veteran. Now, Scott Steiner would have been the overall veteran, and Triple H the WWE veteran and the heel. There are parts in the match where you can visibly see and hear Triple H calling the spots. But was it truly his intention to make Big Papa Pump look bad? Only he will know for certain. Scott Steiner had a repetitive moveset in this match, but Triple H did as well, doing neckbreaker after neckbreaker, and you can tell the crowd is not happy. Early on in this match, the crowd turns on Steiner, and they begin to boo him. Triple H goes for the pedigree, and the crowd cheers for this. Steiner reverses it and gives Triple H another suplex. He goes for what looks like a pile driver, and that is reversed by Triple H, who hits yet another neckbreaker. And then he goes for a suplex of his own. This is followed up by, you guessed it, a suplex from Scott Steiner. They go back to exchanging right hands, and Steiner delivers 3 more suplexes in a row, with JR actually commenting how many suplexes is Scott Steiner going to do in this match. That about says it all right there. After those, the crowd is fully done with this match. The only thing worse in this match by far is the finish. They go for the DQ finish when Triple H hits Steiner with a sledgehammer. The crowd is once again not happy and they boo very, very loudly. Steiner gets some hits in with the sledgehammer and locks the game into the Steiner recliner. He refuses to let it go until Bischoff shows up and begs him to release it. Now, after this match was as bad as it was, you would think that maybe this feud would go off in different directions. Nope. The next week, Triple H shows up to a pretty good pop from the crowd. JR and King are trying to overhype the match by telling the Raw audience that Steiner dominated Triple H at the previous pay-per-view. When he makes it to the ring, he brags about how he is still champ and he made Scott Steiner look bad and embarrassed him in front of everyone. I think there might be a little bit of truth to that. Steiner comes out to not much crowd reaction and demands a rematch from Triple H right then and there, and Triple H says that he has a note from his doctor that says he can't wrestle. But the Nature Boy volunteers Batista to wrestle Steiner instead. Batista, Triple H, and Flair attack Steiner, and Steiner says he wants Triple H but will make do with Batista. The match was a very short-lived match after some interference by Randy Orton. Triple H runs out and the newly formed Evolution attacks Steiner as the episode comes to a close. The next couple of weeks for the build-up, Steiner takes on members of Evolution and Triple H in tag matches. Typical build-up stuff where Steiner wins to give the audience the presumption that Steiner could win in the rematch, but at this point, the crowd could really seem to care less. The build-up matches in the feud segment started taking place earlier and earlier on Raw, I think because the crowd had lost interest, and also Stone Cold was coming back at No Way Out. The rematch takes place at No Way Out, and the beginning of the match actually starts with some real wrestling from Scott Steiner, but the crowd starts booing him right away. Triple H has his leg wrapped up as a target for Steiner, and the crowd is almost comical with their boos. After every move from Steiner, the crowd boos, and when Triple H is in control, they cheer like he was 98 Stone Cold. The crowd even starts chanting Steiner sucks very early into the match. Steiner puts the figure 4 on Triple H and Nature Boy finds the time to interfere. The match goes to the outside where more dirty tactics are taken by Ric Flair. Triple H throws Steiner into the steel steps and gets him back into the ring where Triple H greets him with the first neck breaker of the match. And the crowd starts chanting boring. The two trade right hands and Triple H hits him with yet another neck breaker. They exchange more blows and Steiner hits him with the first belly to belly, and the crowd is completely over this match already. Triple H pushes Earl Hebner and he will not disqualify him, and he's going to need to beat Big Papa Pump. Steiner gets Triple H into the corner and hits him with another belly to belly. And then there's a lot more right hands and suplexes. Freakzilla gets him to the corner where he hits him with a fallaway slam from the top rope and goes for the pin. Ric Flair breaks the count by pulling Steiner off. The two exchange some words and Steiner goes for the Steiner recliner. Nate starts calling for someone to come from the back. Randy Orton shows up and Steiner knocks him off the apron. Batista then shows up and gets driven into the steel steps. Flair tries to help and gets a shot to the head for it. Hebner finally gets tired of it and ejects Evolution. And while Hebner isn't looking, Triple H hits Steiner with the title belt. The crowd boos this and Triple H goes for a 3 count, but Steiner kicks out at 2. He then gives Steiner a pedigree and gets the 3 count. The crowd is much more happy with this finish, and the pop for Triple H was huge. After this match, Steiner would be removed from the main event scene. The Rock would return to Raw, as well as Stone Cold. Also, Goldberg would make his WWE debut. Steiner's next feud would be against Test for the managerial services of Stacy Keibler. This feud started with Test kissing Tori Wilson and the two trying to repair their relationship. Stacy wants him to team up with Steiner in hopes that the two could work together and become tag team champions. Test voiced his concern but eventually agreed to it just to make Stacy happy. In their first match together, Steiner picks up the win and celebrates with Stacy, and Test is not happy. He becomes very jealous, demanding Stacy out of the ring. Steiner doesn't seem too bothered by it and gives the crowd a holler if you hear me. The crowd definitely seems back on Steiner's side after the Triple H rivalry. The next week on Raw, the duo have a shot for the tag team titles facing off against RVD and Kane. During that match, Stacy would be looking on very pleased at Scott Steiner. Test accidentally boots Steiner and costs them the match. The story would continue with Test becoming more and more jealous of Steiner, driving Stacy to him. The feud would eventually come to a head at Bad Blood. Bad Blood took place on June 15, 2003. Steiner would come out to a big pop, but Stacy Keibler would get the biggest pop of the 3. She comes down to the ring and Test wants a kiss on the cheek. She instead gives him a look of disgust and goes to get in the ring. Test doesn't like this and yanks her out. Steiner comes to her defense and totally botches a dive from the apron. He goes to his classic forearm blows and elbow drops. Test leaves the ring and uses Stacy as a shield. This allows Test to gain the upper hand on Steiner, where he makes fun of Steiner's taunts and tells Stacy she needs to wait for tonight. He gives Steiner a scoop slam and does some push-ups. He then sends him for an Irish whip and puts him in a headlock. Steiner fights back with some elbows, but Test quickly gains control and goes for the top rope. He jumps off and is caught with a Northern Lights suplex. Test goes to hit Steiner with a chair and accidentally gets the ropes. The chair bounces back and hits him in the head. Steiner hits him with a slam and gets the 3 count. Nothing special in this match. Test had some pretty entertaining moments, but overall it was pretty lackluster. Stacy would remain his manager with a rematch scheduled at Unforgiven. Test did win back Stacy's managerial services one night on Raw, and that's what would lead up to the Unforgiven match. That match wouldn't be any better. Test did win the match, and he gained Stacy's managerial services and Scott Steiner as his property. Steiner's last appearance for WWE would be the 2004 Royal Rumble. He would be the 8th to enter, and he would take everyone out with clotheslines, and eventually would be eliminated by Booker T after being in the Rumble for 6.5 minutes. He would be released after this and would not wrestle for another major promotion until 2006 when he joined TNA. Looking back at this time in WWE, he came in with a lot of momentum and was being pushed when he first came in. But wrestling Triple H out of shape and injured really did no favors for him. I know in interviews he blames Triple H for his failed run in the WWE, and Triple H has addressed Steiner's comments. Fans seem to have their own theories of what happened, but at the end of the day, only Steiner and Triple H fully know what happened, and they both have 2 different sides of the story. As I stated before, I have always been a big fan of Scott Steiner. I had high hopes for him in the WWE, and it sadly ended up being a very low point of his career. I will be making a video hopefully soon on his WCW run. That is probably the best part of his solo career, and hopefully a Steiner Brothers video, as they are easily in the top 10 of best tag team wrestlers. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I will leave my socials down in the comments. If you guys want to reach out to me there with video ideas or just talk about wrestling, we will see you guys on the next video.